Alright, time for the solutions for the what is required for congruence assignment. So in this first section, it gives you a figure and you have some sort of congruent requirements. And you say what's missing in order to get the congruence by side angle side, or angle side angle, or angle angle side, whatever is listed. On 1, you can add a congruence mark in the middle because of the reflexive property, and we're supposed to get side angle side. Well, right here we have an angle and we have a side. If we want side angle side, we need this side down here to be congruent to the one up there, because those are the sides that match. And so we need ST to be congruent to DT. And if we want angle side angle, here's an angle, here's the side, we need the next angle. And on the top triangle, it is that angle right there. So we need those two angles as angle TUS, congruent to angle TUD. And on 2, we already have a side and an angle on both of these triangles. We want to get angle angle side. Well, we already have the angle side part, we need another angle. So here's the angle. Here's the side, we need the previous angle, so the angle at C and at L need to be congruent. You can write it just like this, angle C congruent to angle L. And on B, we want side angle side. Here's a side, here's an angle. We need the next side to get side angle side. And the one that matches on the other one is right here, LJ. So that's the side CA. Needs to be congruent to the side LJ. And that brings us to the next one. We have a side and an angle, side and an angle. We want angle side angle, so angle side angle, angle side angle. We need H and R to be congruent to each other, so it's angle H congruent to angle R. And on the next one, we want angle angle side. Here's an angle, here's a side. We need the previous angle, angle side. We need the previous angle. So those are the angles T and J that need to be congruent. Congruent angle J. And that brings us to the next one. Anytime you have a short side, you can add a congruence mark, so I'll add one there in the middle. We need to get angle side angle. Well, here's a side in the middle, and then a side out here and a side out there. We need the angles between them, notice the A's between the S's, to be congruent. So that's that angle there and that angle there. And on this one, you have to make sure you write it using the 3 letters because there's multiple angles at that single point there. So that this bottom one would be QSD, congruent to, and we need this corner here, that's going to be SQR. And then the next one, we have side, side, side. We already have 2 of the sides. We need the third one to match on our 2 triangles. So that's the side, QD. That needs to be congruent to SR. And on 5, we have in the middle a side that's congruent to itself, so you can add a congruence mark, but that's a side and then angle, or side and angle on the other one. We need side angle side, so we'll need this side and this side to be congruent, because this side and this one in the middle will form the angle. So that's the side WV, that needs to be congruent to the side XK. And if we want angle angle side, we already have an angle and then a side. We need the previous angle, these outside angles, to be congruent. That's angle W congruent to angle K. Moving on to 6, we already have 2 angles matching on both of these. We want angle angle side. So this one actually has 2 answers because we already have 2 angles in a row, and there's 2 sides that are not between them that we could try to match up. Let's do DF congruent to JL, or you can do the other one, FE and LK congruent. On the next one, we want angle side angle. Here are the 2 angles. We need the side between them on both triangles. That's the side DE. congruent to the side KJ. On 7, we have a side here, angle, angle. So we already have a side angle. On A, we need the next side. So side angle, side, that's going to be MK. And on this one up here, it's going to be SU. So we need MK to be congruent to SU. On the next one, we still have a side angle. We need the other angle on the other side of the side. So here's the side, here's the side. We have one angle, we need the other one to complete the angle side. Angle aspect of this, that's angle L and angle T. On 8, so this one brings up vertical angles. Anytime you have two lines cross, the opposite sides are congruent to each other. They're called vertical angles. So I can add congruence marks there. So now we have a side and angle on both of our triangles. We want side angle side, so we need the next side, which is going to be here on this triangle and here on this other one. That's WV. Need to be congruent to VM. And if you want angle side angle, we already have an angle and a side. We need the other angle on the other end of the side to make sure the sides in between are two angles. And so that's going to be angle K congruent to the other angle over here, which is going to be U. And the 8's all done. Moving on to 9, we can add congruent marks here in the middle. I'm going to use 2 because 1 has already been used here on the sides. But right now, we have two sides on both triangles. If we want side angle side, you need to get the angle that's between the two sides. That is right down here and then right up there. Those angles, this time you have to use the 3 letters. You have to do X, Z, D, and Z, X, Y, which will draw those triangles for you. I'm going to draw those angles for you. So you write those down as your names. Whoops, I messed up on this letter. That should be a D, because I'm talking about this one up here. And Z, X, Y. The next one, we need to get side, side, side. So really there's only one pair of sides that aren't marked yet. That's DX and ZY. Those need to be congruent. On 10, we already have a side and an angle on both of our triangles. We need to get side angle side. So side angle side, we need the next side on both of our triangles. That's going to be a WU congruent to, that's a U, ZX. And then we need to get angle angle side. We have an angle up here, angle down here to go along with the next one. So we'll get angle angle side, angle angle side on both our triangles. That's the angle at W and the angle at Z. And that brings us to 11. You can add a congruence mark in the middle because it's a shared side. That's the recursive property. We have two sides already on our triangles. We want to get side angle side, so we need the angle that's between them. That's the angle right there and right there. Those two need to be congruent. The one up here is GEF. The other one's GFE, and then GFQ are those two angles. So that's GFE congruent to angle GFQ. And the next part is to get side, 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 so we need all the sides congruent. The only sides that aren't congruent yet are these two. That's EG and QG that aren't congruent yet. Moving on to 12, we already have two sides on both our triangles. We need to add a name for this one over here because it wasn't put there. I'm just going to call it A because A is a good letter. We want side angle side. We need the angle to be between the sides, just like in the name. And so we need this angle here at L and this angle here at my A, which I just named. Angle A. And the last part is getting side, side, side. That's basically the sides that aren't marked yet, that don't have congruence markings. That's K, M. That needs to be congruent to GI. And that brings us to 13. Again, we have two sides on both our triangles. We want to get side, side, side first, so the sides that aren't marked yet need to be. That's going to be the side RT, and that needs to be congruent to XZ. And then we need the angle that's between the two sides to be congruent to get side angle side. So that's the angle S, the angle at Y. So that, yeah, angle S congruent to angle Y. On 14, again, we have two sides meeting up here at one of our vertices. To get side, 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 we need the third sides to be congruent. And that's GE congruent to WY. And then the next part, we need to get an extra angle to go between the sides, because we already have two sides. To get side angles, so you need the angles, which are at F and at X. So we need angle F to be congruent to angle S. X, not S. X. And that brings us to 15. Right here in the middle, you can add some congruence markings. Those are vertical angles. They're always congruent, so you can add those congruent markings there. Now we have a side and an angle on both of our triangles here. We want side angle side. We already have this. We need the S part. So we need this side and this side to complete the side angle side setup. That gives us ST being congruent to DS. And the next part is to get angle, angle, side. Right now we have an angle and a side. We need the other angle. And this is the same up here, side, angle, angle. So that's the angle at T and the angle at D. Brings us to 16. We can add a congruence mark here in the middle because of the reflexive property. Every side is congruent to itself. This shared side is congruent for both triangles. We need to get angle, side, angle. Here we have an angle. Here we have a side. We need the next angle. And the same goes for the top triangle, but it's the angle on the other side there. Those angles on the end need to match up. And we need to use three letters on this one to do DCE and DCT. So I'm going to write that DCE, whoops, congruent to DCT. And if you want to get side, angle, angle, which backwards is angle, angle, side, you'll need another angle, because right now we have an angle and a side. We need another angle, but not on the other side of this. We need it on the other side over here. And so that's angle E, and the other one on the end is angle T. Those need to match up. And that brings us to 17. Again, because of the reflexive property, you can add a congruence mark there in the middle. We have an angle and a side for this upper triangle. We have an angle and a side for this bottom triangle. We want to get side, angle, side. We are missing a side. Here's the side, here's the angle. We need the next side. And on the other triangle, it's going to be this side over here that matches it. And that's going to be VG congruent to HI. And if you want angle, side, angle, you're going to need a little bit different thing. Here we have an angle and a side. We need the other angle on the other side of that side. So that's going to be the angle down here in this corner, and the matching one up there is going to be up there. We had to use three letters for these ones to describe HGI and GHV. And those need to be congruent. GHV. And that brings us to 18. We already have a couple of angles on these two triangles. We need angle, angle, side. And so that actually gives us a couple options, because that's a side that's not between them, and that's another side that's not between them. Same thing over here. So we can pick the side ZX to be congruent to this side over here, NL. Or we can pick the other pair, which is YZ and NM. And then this next part is angle, side, angle. Right here in the middle is the side between the angles. And over here we have LM, which is the other side between the angles. So that's the two sides that need to match up. So yeah, gives you that, right? And then brings you to 19. You can add congruence markings here in the middle, but we have to do a double arc because a single arc's been used on these other angles. And right now we have angle, angle. If you want angle, side angle, you need to get the side that's between the two angles, which is right here. And right here, that's VW and VK, or WV and KV. And if you want angle, angle, side, again, there's two options. The long ones can be congruent, or the short ones can be congruent, because they're not between these angles. So that's MK congruent to UW. Or we can have UV congruent to MV. And those are your options there. And then on 20, you can add a congruence mark in the middle. Because of the reflexive property, we have an angle and a side now for both triangles. We need to get side, angle, side. So here's a side, angle. We need the next side up there. So we need AB to match up with CD. And if we want angle, side, angle, we already have an angle on the side, we need the angle on the other side of the side. So that's the angle there and there, those are the matching ones. That's CBD, and that needs to be congruent to BCA. And those are the two angles there, and that's the first section.